All right, it's 2000. Good evening. It's Brushfire Mind. It's Christopher Lowry. Tonight, I want to talk about the midterms. Excuse me. In particular, I want to talk about our prospects going into the midterms and why I think they're actually pretty good. So, it's already been a busy year. A lot of stuff happened. And I think we're just getting started. I really do. All right. So, what have we seen so far this year? Well, there's the memo. Let's just do a quick assets inventory. Barry O left us with almost $20 trillion in debt, and that's about it. Managed to drastically weaken our military situation. Managed to make us just look like a bunch of punks worldwide. Drastically decreased global confidence in the U.S. as a trading partner, as a military force, as a security partner. Generally in any way that one would expect to be able to rely on another nation, and just kind of shit up our nose. Well, in just 1 year in office, the Donald has got us. We've routed ISIS. If you saw the State of the Union address, you know that we're looking at the lowest female unemployment rate in nearly 2 decades. Lowest Hispanic and black unemployment rates in history. There was a little wibble wobble in the stock market this last week, but it's double what it was when Trump took office. Nearly. No, not quite, but nearly. And I'm not gonna go real deep into the stock market situation, but I seem to recall having a conversation with several people over the last week about how, not only was it not that big a dip, but I seem to remember on January 1st of 2017, even before the Donald was inaugurated, I seem to remember that my prediction was we would see 5.3% GDP growth before the end of the year. I missed. The projections are now that we'll see the 5.3. We'll see over 5% GDP growth, probably in the second quarter this year. I'm still pretty comfortable with my prediction. I think that's pretty tight for an off the cuff based on the facts at hand. Now, we've also seen massive rollbacks in crappy regulations. The new tax bill, everything seems to be going well from that. So it's really been a banner year for America since the inauguration of President Trump. Now, midterms, let's not forget, we do have a majority on the Supreme Court, majority in the House and Senate, and the White House. Historically, that does not bode well for the party in power going into the midterms. Remember 2010, the Democrats got absolutely shellacked. In places where there were not Tea Party representatives running for the offices, people voted for Republicans in lieu of Tea Party. I think this year's going to be a little different. We should be expecting that the midterm this year will see a change of at least the majority dwindling. I don't think it's going to be the case. And here's why. over the last year, we've had this whole Russian scandal. I know you've heard it. It's just been constant. Major news stories were almost completely ignored in order to continue beating that particular horse. That dead horse has been beaten so badly that it's no longer comestible. I mean, there comes a point where the sausage just can't be stuffed any further. And now we have the memo. I'll talk a little bit about the Democrat memo that did not get released and why I think that's the case. But this memo is a much bigger deal, I think, than people realize. The memo, like I said last week, is essentially a signed statement where Nunes in particular, but several elected officials, including the president because he signed off on its release, have essentially put their name to a piece of paper in black and white saying, these allegations are supported by evidence which is classified. What are the allegations? Named names. The fact that the Russia narrative is now pretty clearly just an absolute scam, completely fabricated from the word go, is, I think, the least of what we learned from this memorandum. What we really need to be thinking about, and I don't think there's any two ways about it, we're just going to see this happen. The memo names names which are names that are previously associated with other Clinton crime family activities. Okay, so I pointed this out months ago when Uranium One was back in the news for a bit, and you're not hearing anybody talk about it right now for some reason. There is an active investigation into the Clinton Foundation and some of its subsidiaries. That is a thing that is happening right now. Not hearing a word about it in the news cycle. I don't want to talk about that. Why don't we want to talk about that? They don't want to talk about that because not only at the end of this conversation will it be even more apparent that the Russia collusion narrative was fabricated, but that fabrication was conducted by people who have been close to the Clinton family for a very long time. And not just close friends. These are not just family acquaintances or even just professional friends. It's very much starting to look like what has happened is that over the last 20 or 30 years, the Clintons have been involved with Rosenstein, Mueller, Comey, and basically everybody named in the memo, except, of course, for the named victims of the corruption of the Clintons and their ilk. Because let's not forget, Comey has quite clearly committed crimes in the pursuit of defrauding the American people with regard to the Hillary Clinton email scandal. And before all this is over, we already know that Barack Obama was emailing Hillary Clinton on that server. So he knew from the get-go that his Secretary of State was actively involved in the commission of crimes. Okay? This whole bullshit about Comey talking about how there was no intent. I've covered this before, but I'm gonna cover it again right now because it's pertinent. Comey argued in his exoneration of Hillary Clinton and in his testimony before the Intelligence Committee, he argued that there was no intent, and he went so far as to explain that intent is very difficult to prove, which is true. It is very difficult to prove that intent exists. What you would really need to solidly just cock solid lock down the argument for intent would be something like spoliation. Now, part of proving intent is proving that the criminal had knowledge of understood the crime they were committing, and committed the crime willfully and intentionally when they committed the crime. A big piece of evidence that pushes toward intent in most criminal proceedings, if the accused gets busted committing spoliation, that's a big reach toward intent. Because when you get busted for spoliation, for destroying evidence after it has been subpoenaed, the judge will instruct the jury to treat whatever evidence it is that was destroyed as if it were the most damning evidence it could have been. If a murder suspect was busted for burning a box which was supposed to have contained an unknown piece of evidence, it would essentially be treated like whatever was in that box, even if it was an unrelated photograph, it just became the smoking gun. Comey testified before the Senate committee in the same testimony where he said that intent where he tried to fabricate intent as a part of the statute, which it is not, because the statute involved the use at 18. The statute is gross negligence. Gross negligence is the standard. It has nothing to do with intent. Intent is utterly beside the point. But he argued that intent was a relevant factor in the case. It's not, and more to the point, his testimony that evidence was destroyed and that she lied repeatedly. Go look up Trey Gowdy on YouTube. Trey Gowdy digging into Comey. I mean, he just hits Comey over and over again. She said there was only one device. Is that true? No, that's not true. No, that wasn't true. She said she only used the email for personal use. Is that true? No, that's not true. She said there was no classified information. Is that true? Well, in that classified no. She said there was no classified information. Was that true? No. And, I mean, just over and over and over. Comey got absolutely railroaded by Gowdy. It was brilliant. I've seen boxing matches that were less intense. So, Comey testified that she committed spoliation, that she destroyed evidence, testified that she lied to the FBI or to the Intelligence Committee. So she either lied to the FBI or she committed perjury for the Intelligence Committee, which both are crimes. So if nothing else, let's assume for just a moment that Hillary didn't do nothing wrong with regard to the whole email thing. She is absolutely guilty of either lying to the FBI or committing perjury before the Intelligence Committee under oath, because she was given the opportunity to answer the same questions by both groups, and she gave two, not just different answers, but she gave polar opposite answers, which means that she has to have lied to one of them. At a bare minimum, perjury or lying to the FBI. Comey just sweeps that aside. Now let's not forget, Comey's predecessor at the as director of the FBI was Mueller. Comey, Mueller, Rosenstein, a few others were all involved with Hillary Clinton while she was the Secretary of State. These were the people that were involved in the decision-making process and the money laundering scandal around Uranium One. So if we assume that all of the criminality begins with Uranium One, we still have this cast of characters, most of whom are named as co-conspirators in the memorandum that was released week before last. Most of whom are listed as co-conspirators in the Russia scandal, are clearly involved as co-conspirators in the Hillary email investigation scandal, in the Trump Tower wiretapping scandals, and in the Uranium One scandals. It stands to reason that if these are the go-to people for the Clintons when they're conducting their criminal activity, which they clearly have been, at a minimum with regard to the email, the Russia scandal, and Uranium One, most probably with the handling of donation money in Haiti and the receipt of campaign contributions from Russia, Iran, and all over the Middle East, and foreign aid, essentially. Receiving aid from foreign powers, including our enemies, peddling influence. We have, from the emails, confirmation of influence peddling and all of that. So what we've got, that memo, is going to force a second special investigation. So, I opened up by saying we're going to talk about the midterms. So going into the midterms, we're going to see that everybody in the Democrat National Committee, because it's not highly probable that any of them were not at some point in communication with the president or with the Hillary Clinton campaign. Because every one of them has constituents whom they are expected to tap for votes. Okay, as a member of a political party, you are expected to campaign for your party's candidates. So, the ballot's probability suggests that every Democrat up for re-election this year was directly involved, at least in the email server. And it would surprise me intensely if this wasn't kind of like the whole Harvey Weinstein thing. You know, Harvey Weinstein, a couple of girls came out and said he did some bad stuff. And I'm not going to go into that so much, but I want to point this out. With the Weinstein deal, everybody knew what was going on. They've been cracking jokes about it. I mean, all of Hollywood has been cracking jokes about Harvey Weinstein and what kind of a guy he was, what kind of stuff he was into, about the way he treats women and all that stuff. They were all cracking jokes about it for decades now. Right? They all knew what was going on. None of them did anything about it. We're going to find that that's largely peak uranium. We're going to find that's largely the case with the Clinton scandals. For the members of the party to pretend like they didn't at least hear the rumors. Ooh. So we're not doing our jobs. We are asleep at the wheel. If we make it to the midterm, and Democrats in general, Democrat voters, are not deeply skeptical and suspicious of every single candidate available to them. And anybody who's voting Democrat, anybody who votes consistently Democrat, if they're not taking some real hard looks at their life choices right now, it's because they're not paying attention. It's because they're buying the lie, and they want to keep buying the lie. They're married to it. Legion, I'm going to give you a little pushback there. The 20% of the black vote the Donald has okay, there's a few things that we need to be reminding our Democrat friends as often as possible. If you vote Democrat, you voted for the members of the Congressional Black Caucus who, in protest, refused to applaud the president for having achieved the lowest black unemployment rate in history. If you have voted Democrat in the last decade, you are personally responsible for the failure of legislation which attempted to prevent the abortion of babies who were more than 5 months old. Five months developed. The bill went up for a vote earlier this week to prevent the abortion of children past the 20-week mark. All right, so it's still perfectly legal in many places. No, Legion. Not a monolith. I don't actually disagree with you. I don't actually disagree with you. By and large, they don't care. Race, class, gender, it's all they know. I don't totally disagree. Right. Democrats, correct. Right. The blacks are not a monolith. They can vote in their own best interest. I know it's contrary to the evidence. I know the statement is not backed up by the evidence, but I believe it to be the case that all Americans are capable of voting in their own best interest. Where we break down is their awareness of how their interests can be served. More black babies are aborted than born. I mean, well, it's about 50-50. A black child has about the same chance of being aborted as they do of being born. That's just a fact in the United States right now. And, thanks to the Democrats, that baby can still be aborted right up until it is all the way out of the canal. Right up until it is completely evacuated from its mother. That baby can legally be aborted in most places in the United States right now. That breaks my fucking heart. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a little choked up there for a second. I'm a pro-life guy. I really am. And one of the things that we just have to stay on is the language. It is vital that we continue to take the language. I will not tolerate a person calling themselves pro-choice when the choice they want to make is to murder their baby. That's not a choice. You made your choice, sweetheart. You made your choice when you got knocked up. Oh, life of the mother, oh, rape, oh. Okay, life of the mother. Life of the mother. Annually, roughly 700 women die from pregnancy complications in the United States. Of those, significantly less than all of those could have been saved by an abortion. Your argument is statistically insignificant. Next question. Oh, rape babies. Same answer. Statistically insignificant. When you are arguing for abortion, you are arguing for the termination of an inconvenient life. You are arguing that murder should be used for your personal convenience. And not just any murder, but the worst kind of murder. The murder of your own small child. Now, I really did not mean to get off on the abortion conversation tonight. So, just recuperate a little bit. Okay, so, going into the midterms. We have a Republican-controlled government that is enjoying some really, really significant successes. ISIS is routed. The stock market, we got to pull back, and then it popped back up. So it got shaky for a week. That's a whole other conversation. And Rod, didn't I say that it would recover quickly? I believe what I said to Rod. I believe I told him that we would see it recover all losses and stabilize by the end of the month. And that was on Monday, I think we had that conversation. So the stock market's gonna still be looking good come the midterm. No, it's 10 months away. Don't get me wrong. 10 months seems like a long time. But it's not. It is not. Mario. So my buddy says, I'm pro-life, but I cynically know that abortion decreases crime. You've been reading Freakonomics. Oh. Yeah, you've been reading Freakonomics. You should pick up the second one. There was also a pretty good documentary from Freakonomics. Anyway, when we get to this midterm, by the time we get there, a second investigation will have begun, and that investigation will be probing the extent of the active involvement of the named parties in the memorandum into the Clinton crime activities. I would go so far as to say I will be surprised if by the end of next year we do not see, well, I mean, Slick Willie's going to be dead in 3 years. But by the end of next year, if Hillary hadn't croaked from Parkinson's, she should be in prison. Oh yeah, Rod Lowry for 4th District. I'll get to frickin' Hank Guam's going to tip over because I'm an idiot Johnson in just a minute. Because he is up again this year, and the last time he was up, he ran unopposed, and that shit's got to stop. But he is not unopposed this year. He's not unopposed this year. I feel terrible. I'm going to have to look up the other Democrat's name. But I may actually end up voting for a Democrat in that case. And I'll tell you about that, too. Y'all, we might have to start voting for some Democrats here and there just to replace certain other Democrats. You've got a crappy Democrat that doesn't have a Republican running against them. Well, at least get the crappy one out of there and put in a new crappy one that hadn't had time to get aligned with anybody. The more we can disrupt and diffuse their allegiances and alliances, the better. Running against... My dad and I have been talking about this guy, and I need to just get out and go meet him. Running against Hank Johnson, we've got Georgia's 4th Congressional District, that's us. Ballotopedia. Safely Democrat. It doesn't say. All right, anyway, we'll get back to that later. And who knows? Maybe I can. Maybe I ought to throw my hat in the ring. It's only a couple $100 to get involved, right? Y'all gonna throw me some campaign contributions? Oh, baby, can I run for Congress? or can I run for the? Yeah, can I run for Congress? Oh, anyway. Yeah, no, sir. We do not anticipate that happening. Yeah. Legion, you're right. He just treated it like it was a serious question, and it certainly was. Later on, Hank Johnson tried to play it off as a joke. Oh, I was just cracking a joke. Yeah, that's exactly what that sounded like. Shoo, buddy. So, going into this midterm, every time you talk to a Democrat, you get one of these shitheads on Facebook running off at the mouth, hit them with it. You run into somebody at church, hit them with it. You overhear somebody in a Starbucks, hit them with it. We need to do the activism. We cannot continue to allow our government to get seated by violent and unintelligent people. Look at Nancy Pelosi this last week. Oh my God. She stands up there, runs her mouth for 8 hours, and she manages to say, my grandson blew out his candle, and he said that he wished he had brown skin and brown eyes like his friend. Isn't that beautiful? Sure. Would it be just as beautiful if his brown-eyed, brown-skinned friend had said he wished he had blue eyes and white skin? No, of course it wouldn't be. No, that would be, you would have to beat him and chastise him and castrate him to make sure that he didn't reproduce. Because after all, eugenics, right? That's how y'all do things. Right, Margaret Singer? That's how we do things in the Democrat Party. I really don't mean to keep coming back to the abortion thing, but I had a conversation about it with an old friend a while ago, and I was thinking about some stuff earlier today, and it kind of got in my head, because he made the argument, well, there's poor people that get pregnant and they can't afford to raise these children. Like, oh, okay, yeah, oh, no, okay, that's a perfectly reasonable assertion. Poor people can't afford to raise children. You're right. If we abort their children, that sure does solve a lot of problems. How about we abort the poor people? It's the same argument. These people are poor. They can't afford to feed themselves. So rather than we feed them, let's just cull them. It's not a different argument than abortion because poor. Hey, we have poor people and they're having children. We should help them. We should use our money to abort their children because they cost money, because it costs them money to have children. What? Kill babies because you can't afford to feed them? Okay, same argument. Let's exterminate the poor people. It's the exact same argument. Wow. Okay, so the other thing we need to hit them with. Don't forget. At 38 pounds of marzipan. Oh, Mario, that sounds delicious. Anyway, 38 pounds of marzipan. I can handle that. Can it be a baby-shaped marzipan? Yahtzee! So, the comment section is killing me tonight. Okay, in an effort to bring myself back around on point, I'm gonna break I'm gonna break my train of thought so that I can move back to a different one. But let me ask, how's my sound tonight, guys? I just remapped everything, hooked up a new microphone. I spent rather a lot of time with children underfoot trying to make this thing operate today. So how am I sounding? I'll give you time to catch up. Anyway, the shutdown. Oh, the shutdown. 2 shutdowns. You need to keep beating them in the face with this. Chuck Schumer shut down the government because criminal aliens are more important than all other services to U.S. citizens. The Democrat Party, their official platform right now, is that all military, federal employees, welfare benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, government-funded housing, government-subsidized heating, all government programs are subordinate to the whims of criminal aliens. Let that sink in. It can't be the best sound ever, Legion. I've been using this microphone for 3 years. I just retooled it. It was, the sound was better before the visual was improved. But thank you. Yeah, let that sink in. All your government programs, all your welfare programs, remind every Democrat you run into, every government program that you hold so dearly has been subordinated by the Democrats to just over 500,000 criminal aliens. Deferred action for childhood arrivals. These childhood arrivals were 16 or older 5 years ago. We keep hearing all this stuff in the news. Oh, look at this poor teacher. She's my kid. She's my child's teacher. And she's going to be deported because of evil, mean old Donald Trump. If she's about to be deported, that's because her extension has run out. That's because her special dispensation has run out and she hasn't taken care of it. Okay, the thing about the DACA people that are running out, they signed the paperwork. It explains to you that you are signing, affirming that you understand the terms of your signature on the paperwork, and that those terms include that you are to pursue some sort of either legal status or get out. And it gives an end date. So all these children that just amazes me. We keep hearing, oh, the dreamers, oh, the children, oh, do it for the children, oh, these poor children. Look at this poor child who's a construction worker that... Wait. What? What about these poor DACA children that are serving in our U.S. military? Okay, so they're at least 17 or older there. What about these poor DACA children that are teaching in our schools? These poor dreamer children that are teaching. Just let that sink in. We keep hearing all these stories. Oh, but this DACA kid. See, they want to have it both ways. Now, did any of y'all see the response to the State of the Union address by that shiny new ginger cuck, the drooling ginger cuckold? What's his name? Joe Kennedy. I've talked about this on the show before too. The Democrat wants to have it both ways. Like this, all the DACA recipients are all these lovely children, and do it for the children, and oh, the children. But these children are all... Oh, and let's talk about these children's jobs and their valedictorian status, and they're this, and they're that. And, baby, no. There are DACA recipients who served in the military who are out and their status is running up. Being in the military does not equal citizenship. Being in the military is one... It helps. It helps to get citizenship. And yes, Legion, approximately 900 criminal aliens in the U.S. military is statistically insignificant. Ish. Until you remember that the 2 million or so that Trump has ostensibly offered to blanket amnesty to is roughly not dissimilar to the actual size of our military, which is scary in and of itself. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to read the comments real quick. Oh, yeah, okay. They're talking about how we have non-citizens in our military. Frankly, I'm not going to get into that right now. Maybe I'll do a short video about it later this week. But it's thing. And yes, it does count for a lot more than border crossing. That's fair, Rod. Okay. I think I've just about run the topic out. But what I want to be the big takeaways tonight are this. We're only 10 months out, and 10 months seems like a long time, but I promise you when it's something on the business calendar, 10 months from when you're trying to plan something, when you're trying to achieve a task, 10 months from now is next Saturday. It's crazy. The big takeaways from this, hit your Democrat buddies. I don't care if you convince them of anything. The point is to make them doubt. They should doubt. They gave us Barack Obama, who has destroyed healthcare in this country and done it intentionally. They gave us ISIS. They created ISIS. And now, these are important points. Because it is not that Barack Obama's poor decisions had these negative effects, and that's the end of the conversation. This is much more important than that, and it's much more significant than that. Everything that Barrio did while he was in office had a drastic and substantial negative consequence, and was undertaken against the advice of people who know better, against the predictions. And we're not just talking about doomsayers saying, oh, well, communism bad, don't do the healthcare thing. No, we're talking about numbers, evidence, and history. Evidence being examined and put forward with arguments. Obamacare, please don't do the Obamacare thing because it will cause doctors to leave the medical practice. It will slow the influx of new doctors into medicine. It will retard the development of new technology. It will slow the approval of new important medications. It will drastically increase the cost of healthcare and decrease access to healthcare. We made all of these predictions before it was voted for. And they still did it. And every single one of them has occurred almost exactly as was predicted. The only deviation to that statement is that many of those drastically disastrous outcomes occurred much faster than expected. ISIS. Sarah Palin straight laid it out in 2007 about timelines and announcements. If you announce that you will leave Afghanistan or Iraq on a certain timeline, and she laid it out, in 5 months X will happen, in 3 months X will happen. The only thing she did not predict almost to the second was the name of ISIS. And even that, she got pretty close to it. She called it like the Islamic Caliphate state or something like that. She may as well have just straight said ISIS back in 2007. And yeah, every single thing he did, those are the biggies. And let's not forget, hey Mitt, the 1980s called and they like their foreign policy back. Oh, because Russia isn't a problem, right? We don't have to worry about Russia, right? Barrio. It's not just that the Democrats are opposition. They are either, as this evidence suggests, woefully incompetent, or, as is more probably indicated by the evidence that I just laid out, actively malicious. That's what worries me. The Democrat Party leadership is almost certainly actively malicious, intent on either the destruction of the United States of America or the supplantation of its general populace with a sort of slave population. They would be thrilled to see open-air slave markets like the ones that they have caused with their foreign policy to exist in North Africa now. So, if you hear a Democrat talking about Democrat stuff, hit them with it. Have that shutdown work. Remind them that their leadership, that the people that they vote for, have decided to prioritize criminal aliens who, by the way, got involved in the DACA program by having committed crimes previously. And at a minimum, are in criminal violation of the law with regard to immigration to even be involved in the program. There is no DACA recipient who is not a criminal. Full stop. No exception. That statement is empirically brute fact. There are no non-criminal DACA recipients. Period. So, your Democrats have voted to shut down the government, specifically to subordinate all U.S. citizens' needs to the whims of criminal aliens. And not just criminal aliens in general, but just over 500,000 very specific ones who are criminals. Your Democrat leadership has created a shortage of healthcare providers, a shortage of insurance options. Most places in the country right now, you do not have a choice. There is one insurance provider that you can purchase your health insurance from, whether you want to buy it through the marketplace or privately. And that is a direct result of Obamacare. And I've detailed before how very carefully Obamacare was designed specifically to punish not white people, not rich people. No, it was designed very carefully to punish all Americans who earn between $50,000 and $90,000 per year, are married, and have one or more children. It was designed to make it almost impossible for that group of people to be able to put health insurance on their children. If you are making between $50,000 and $90,000 a year, are married, and have one or more children, in almost every state in the union, you cannot purchase health insurance for your child through the subsidized marketplace. So unless you can pay upwards of $1,000 to $2,000 per month for your health insurance, or it's provided through your employer, then your children are on Medicare. I'm sorry, Medicaid, or whatever your local state equivalent is. Down here we have Peach Care, and there's another one. But yeah, if you cannot pay $1,500 to $2,000 a month, earning between $50,000 and $90,000 a year as a married couple, that's an important part of this. Being married makes you a target of the enemy. They don't want you happy. Happy people don't vote Democrat. The Democrat platform is that your life is miserable and everybody that looks different hates you. That is the platform. That's their whole platform. That's everything. Your life is miserable and everybody hates you. Vote Democrat. And on that happy note, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification. Look out for more videos coming your way. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a hell of a week. I'm about smoked. I love you. Thanks for coming out. And until next week, remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you'll set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.